Okay, good afternoon. I'm Greg Jensen with Simplex Grinnell. I'm here to show you how your fire systems operate. You have 3 fire systems in this building. This is the main fire system that controls all the horn strobes and items in the building. There are 2 other panels on the back hallway there that cover different areas. Okay, I will show you how to use this one, and we'll go over and I can show you how to use the pre-action panel, which feeds the studios. Okay, and then there is a chemical release panel that feeds the UPS room and the control room. Okay, this panel is pretty simple. You have a number of LEDs and you have a display here. Anytime something happens, you're going to have we'll start with a trouble signal first. The trouble signal is going to activate, it's going to sound the sounder on the panel. You're going to hear it beeping. And you're also going to see a trouble light, a yellow LED, under the trouble flashing. Okay, if that signal goes off, you open your panel door and just press the trouble ACK. Okay, and when you do that, that is going to also tell you where the trouble is. There's going to be a listing up here of what is in trouble. Okay, if I can take this cover off, I will show you. See if I can do one here. For example, first thing I want to do is I want to call the central station and put on a test. Anytime you have anybody in a building working on the system, either the sprinkler system, the chemical panel for the equipment rooms, you want to have them call this number and give them this account number. Let them know they're going to be working on the system, they want to put it on test. Okay? And there is a number on each of these. At each panel. This number is on each panel, so they shouldn't this is what's going to happen. You're going to hear this is your account number. If you are calling to place your account on or offline, please press 1. To report. There's other prompts that ask you if it's an emergency or anything like that to punch that one in, and they answer those in priority.
Hello, this is Joyce Anderson. Simplex Grinnell. May I have your system number or account number, please?
Good afternoon. This is Greg from Fort Myers District. I'm calling in regards to account number 212-1447. That's correct.
Give me just a second. Oh, come on, computer's just a little faster, jeez. And how can I help today?
I'd like to put that on test until 5 p.m. Okay, what's going to happen? You're going to get a trouble light flashing. It's going to tell you the number of troubles that there are on the panel, right here, 1. Press the acknowledge. It's going to tell you extended power supply, depleted or missing battery. Okay, so that's actually the trouble. Okay, so that will clear by itself. It doesn't have to be reset. Okay, it's already clear. Okay, so that is the most common thing you're going to do on here is silence the trouble. The other signal that's going to happen is a supervisory. Okay, that is going to also flash a yellow light. It's going to say supervisory, and you'll do the same thing, supervisory acknowledge. The only time a supervisory is going to come up is if it's one of the duct detectors upstairs. There's 2 duct detectors, or one of the tamper valves get closed for the sprinkler system. That's the only time you'll get a supervisory. Okay, if that's the case, you just press supervisory acknowledge, it'll silence it. You may want to check, see if somebody shut a valve by mistake, or somebody's playing games and shut the valve, and check that. If everything looks clear, then you want to call in for service. You can't find anything obvious. Okay, the third item that happens is a fire alarm. Okay, fire alarm is going to sound all the horns in the building. It's going to light this red light. Okay, Anytime that goes off, your first priority is to evacuate the building, especially the area that the fire's in. Now you have another one of these that is mimicked up by the reception, so she should be able to read that and tell what area it's in. It could be a pull station, it could be a smoke detector, it could be one of the other panels. Main priority is exit the building, okay? Do not silence it. The fire department will frown upon that. I understand you guys have a little different situation. You got on air going on, but if silencing it, usually the fire department is going to be upset and they'll slap your hand. So it will do the same thing. It'll tell you where or what where it is. If it's a pull station in the newsroom, it's a pull station at the front door, elevator, smoke detector. Okay? That's your basic operation. If the horns do go off, and you're not supposed to silence it, but there is an alarm silencer, that will silence the horns, but the strobes will keep flashing. Okay?
In the middle of the broadcast, you may end up doing that. Just ask for forgiveness. Don't reset the panel.
Don't reset it. Do not reset it. Okay? Technically, I tell you, do not silence it either until the fire department shows up. But how you guys operate, that's up to you guys and how the jurisdiction is. There are a couple items here for bypassing. Okay? Basically, they're to bypass the signals, or which shuts all your horn strobes off. Do not recommend turning it on or off. Okay? You have an AHU bypass. Okay? Basically what that does, if somebody's working on your air handlers, or say for some reason the duct detector has an issue with it and it stops running, you can press that bypass and it should turn on. What you have to do, you have to go into menu, and the first thing that comes up is change access level. And you hit enter, and it's going to ask you to log in. You hit 1, and then you're going to go 3, 3, 3, enter. Okay? That allows you to change, it changes your access level in order to activate these signals. So if you press that, it's going to stop the AHUs from shutting down, and it's also going to put a trouble on the panel. Now what it says here, trouble point, AHU bypass. So it tells you exactly what the trouble is. Let's do elevator bypass. Elevator bypass stops the elevator from coming between. Normally when a smoke detector goes off in front of the elevator, it goes from one floor to the other. So now you've got a bypass on their trouble point. Okay? And that's the maximum. Signal bypass does the same thing. It bypasses all your horn strobes in the building. Like I said, we do not recommend you use the signal bypass unless you know somebody's in the building working on your sprinkler system, somebody's in the building working on your suppression systems for your control UPS room. This way, if they trigger something, it doesn't activate and evacuate the whole building. And just make sure before you do that, you call and put the system on test. So now we've got troubles. So if you've got multiple troubles, if you come up to the panel, it's going to say troubles, number of them, 3. And if you just go hit the trouble acknowledge, it's going to stroll through them. It's AHU bypass, elevator bypass, and signal bypass. So those are all the troubles. To enable those, after about 45 minutes of time, you have to log back in. Okay, so you'd have to go menu, change access level, enter, 1, log in, and then do the 3 3s again. But because I'm so close to when I did it, I should be able to just put those in. You see the system go back to normal and be clear.
Sir?
Yes?
So I can see this happening maybe once every 1 or 2 years. So we're going to forget about it, possibly how to do that again. So can we call your service and ask them how to do that if we have
most of the time you can call the numbers on the screen and say, hey, I forgot how to do this. Can you walk me through it?
Okay.
After hours, we have technicians on call. If it's emergency and you need them out there, you just need to request them to come out. Or you can talk to them on the phone and say, hey, can you walk me through how to do this?
Okay.
Okay? We don't normally give that information out as much, but you guys have a different, because of the type of business you are and how you operate around here, 24/7 and things like that, and we'll do that. That is it for the fire alarm panel. If you ever hear this thing beeping, don't press alarm silence. It doesn't do anything. Press the button under whatever light is flashing. That'll silence it. Now, if there's multiple troubles on there coming up, you may have to press it multiple times. Priority 2, you don't have to worry about. You have nothing in the system programmed as priority 2. That's it. There is another, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to go in. Okay, for example, I've pulled up a pull station here. It's M121, second floor exit to south stair D, okay? That's what's going to come up if that pull station goes in alarm. The red light's going to be flashing, the horn strobes are going to be sounding. If for some instance that thing keeps going off and going off and going off, okay, what you can do is you can disable it. You would hit, please enter a point validator. What you would hit is IDNet 6. You're going to put an M there. You press 1 dash, and I believe that was point 21, and hit enter. Okay. Enter disable. Okay. Now that pull station's disabled and taken out of the system. So if it's causing you headaches before service tech can get here, it's one way to get rid of it. Okay. You can ask, if it gets to be a trouble and they're taking a little bit of time to get here, you can ask them on the phone how to disable it until they get here. So it stops the instance. So it stops whatever it's doing. Okay? And to enable it, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to hit enable. Press enter to enable the point. It takes 60 seconds to enable. We can't change that. We've tried. There is a circuit breaker for this panel. It's located in its panel LE1D, I section -31. So it's probably 31, number 31 breaker on the panel, I'm guessing.
By the old cotton machine.
You shouldn't have to do that. You guys are generator backup and everything, so I can't really see. Unless the panel really flakes out and you need to shut the power off to it there. It's not recommended that we tell you that. It's pretty much this panel. We have a user placard that kind of explains this, some of the functions, and we'll get that posted up here shortly.
Down there might be.
Pardon me?
That panel's down there maybe.
Oh, I haven't. See, actually, yeah, it is right here.
Yeah.
It's the breaker, and it has a breaker lock on it. It's the last breaker on the right. So the panel breaker rate is right there. Okay, so now that's enabled and it's normal. Let's see. Let's see what else is in.
What is D?
If for some reason the thing, you get a call or somebody says the panel's beeping, and you come to it and it's not. Okay, there's a history buffer, okay? Basically, if you press the menu, it's going to give you a bunch of screens. You press next, going to hit a historical alarm log. Alarm log will be for an actual fire alarm, so you can see what device actually caused it. And it's going to go display historical trouble log. And you get to that, and you hit enter. And they're listed in order of occurrence, so generally what you want to do is press the previous to get the last one. Okay, so 2:07, 2:26 p.m. That was disabled trouble, which I put on the panel and acknowledged it, and it'll go so forth and so on and so forth. So it lists all the bypasses as troubles. It'll probably list extender power supply battery trouble, and so forth. So you can actually go in and check the history if somebody says it's beeping but it wasn't. And before I leave, I'll clear that so there's nothing in there currently. Same thing for the alarms. I don't know if they're still in there. Fire alarm, 11:46 Saturday, 3:19 a.m. You guys had a fire alarm?
No, we keep having that.
Well, that shouldn't. Oh, okay. Okay, so somebody's been.
Yeah, we've it's shutting it off.
Well, okay, so somebody's been pressing the alarm silence and reset. Okay, you don't want to do that because it'll just put in a history log that somebody did it. The only time you want to hit alarm silence and reset is when there's an actual alarm. And like I said, you don't even want to do that. So you want to wait for the fire department to get here. Okay? Just the silence button will shut it out. The acknowledge button will silence it. Okay? And that's basically it on this panel.
How sensitive are, if the heat ever gets cold enough to kick on and the dust? will
The
it
smoke
take
detector,
stuff
the ones in the air handler units, depends on how well your duct detectors or your air handlers or filters are maintained. Generally that'll happen in the winter after your air conditioning has been run out summer. If the filters haven't been changed and the first time the heat goes on, it may burn the dust, and there may be dust on there that even the filters won't stop that gets on the coils. It'll burn that off. It may activate the duct detector. Okay, it doesn't, the duct detectors do not sound the building alarm.
Okay,
Okay, all they'll do is put a supervisory on here.
okay,
And the best thing to do on those is, if you get a duct detector, acknowledge it. And if you know it's because somebody turned the heat on finally, give it a minute or two to clear out, okay? Because all that dust will have gone through the detector and it takes a minute to settle. That is that. Other than that, I don't know anything else to let you know on here. Any questions on it? I've got a user book I can get you, and I can get you a CD with actual operating, how they go through scenarios with the alarm flashing and everything like that. I don't want to do that now with everybody being in the building. Okay. I've been with a lot of companies and dealt with a lot of different equipment, and this panel is probably the most state-of-the-art that there is. And it's very stable panel. Of any manufacturer I've been with, I like this panel more than anything. Okay, so if somebody pulls a pull station, okay, it's going to pull and the lever's going to be down. Okay, there's a little handle on it. Actually, and this key fits all the pull stations too, and we can get you a couple extra keys. What you have to do is just put this in the pull station, turn it, you'll hear the handle snap up, and then you just put it to the wall again and turn it the other way so it's locked. I don't want to do that because I don't want to sound the horns. That's that. We can go over to the pre-action panel. I can give you a quick lesson on that one. Okay, anytime you get a trouble on this, you've got to do two things. You can open the door, press the first button, scroll, buzzer silence, okay? It's going to do, say, if you have multiple troubles, you've got to press it multiple times. Okay, if this goes into alarm, okay, what it does, it's going to activate an alarm. You're going to see a couple zones here, and you're going to see an output for it, which means that there's water going into the studio systems. There's heat detectors on these. They're fixed temperature heat detectors. The zones are also labeled in a label, so you shouldn't have to do it. Zone 1 and 2 covers the studios. The second floor, I believe the new control room, and a stairway on the second floor. All the heat, there's heats in there. There's a zone for each one. In order for spring water to get into that system, you have to have 2 heat detectors go. So, but if 1 heat detector goes, it's going to activate an alarm on here and sound your building alarm. Okay? What you need to do to silence, you're going to hit signal silence. It'll silence this panel, but your other panel is still going to be going. Okay? Fire department, same thing. We don't want to do a reset. Okay? After the condition has been verified that it's not an actual fire and we know that everybody's safe, what you want to do is you want to reset this panel first. Okay? Because if you don't reset this panel first, the other panel will not reset. Okay, so if this panel's in alarm, you determine that it was nothing, fire department determines it was nothing, they need to reset this panel before they reset the main panel. Okay? Other than that, there's a scroll button that displays the troubles. it's got one of one trouble, and that's it, ground. Now, if there are multiple, you'd scroll through and it would list what they are. There's a supervisory signal on this, that if somebody happens to cause a tamper, you're going to get a supervisory notification on this. Actually, your SUP is going to be lit. Supervisory 2 is going to be lit, okay? If it's supervisory 2 lit, it means somebody caused a valve out there. It's also going to report a supervisory to the main panel, okay? That's about it on this panel. Really is not a lot. Now, I've got it disabled so that this will not make that one sound until that's fixed. And hopefully before I leave here today, that device will be here and we can get it taken care of. That's it on this panel. It's very simple.
And how does it know that someone has closed the valve by a pressure sensor?
Actually, on the valve, it's a micro switch, an electronic micro switch. So if somebody turns the valve, it actually, there's a valve that has a stem in it that has a rod that pushes up against micro switches. Normally, they're normally open, and what happens as the valve closes, the arm goes up and hits the micro switch and causes the supervisor to come to this panel. Okay. Anything else on here? There is pressure switches on this. One is for the low air pressure. If the air pressure goes below a certain level, it's going to put a supervisory on this panel and a supervisor on the other panel. And there is a pressure water flow switch that if for some reason the solenoid gets activated or the on the dry sprinkler system and there's water going through the system, it will send an alarm here. Okay, that will be an alarm. So the main thing is you want to read the main panel first to see exactly what part of the building it is, and then process of evacuation, go from there. Alrighty, that's it on this one. And this panel is going to do the same thing, report the same way to the other panel. It's the same faceplate as the other panel. Trouble acknowledge, supervisory acknowledge, alarm acknowledge, system reset, and alarm silence. We don't want to touch alarm silence. We don't want to touch the alarm silence until fire department gets here. Let them deal with that. In order to activate any of these keys, you need to turn it up to the enable. If this key is up, and the reason the fire department doesn't want the key in there is because somebody's going to leave it turned and leave these buttons active. They don't want these buttons active. So the key needs either to be out, maybe hanging under there someplace, or turned in the up position. If the reason is the buttons aren't active. The silence and reset buttons aren't active, okay? You need to turn the key. It's going to display the same thing as the main panel, and then you can press your buttons and do the same thing, acknowledge conditions. After these detectors get some dirt through them, they go into a service mode, okay? And it lets the panel know that they're out of their adjusted frequency where they're supposed to be.
Like right now it's blinking red.
Right.
Should that be
That's
blinking?
normal. That's normal.
They're never supposed to be green?
No, ours don't have green on them, okay? Just it's one color. Okay. When it's solid red, that's when we have a problem. Solid red, it's either going to be an alarm or it's going to be dirty. You will see a trouble on the panel that says smoke detector dirty, okay? After that smoke detector stays dirty for a certain amount of time, it could turn to excessively dirty. You don't want to let it get that far, because once you get to excessively dirty, it could mean false alarm, fire trucks, and all that. So if you see a dirty trouble that needs to be called in for service, say, hey, we got a trouble here, a dirty detector.
Has to be replaced.
We
normally.
replaced that already.
We've already replaced that one already.
Probably because we needed to have it installed for inspections before it was installed before
It was dirty.
constructions were.
Yeah.
So much haze in here.
Yep. So that one, that should be it. And technically, I'm going to have.
Does that run off electricity too?
That runs all the devices
So no
are powered
battery
from the panel.
backup or-
It's battery backup through the panel.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to have them move that over one. I'll have to have Collier Electric move that over. That shouldn't be in that tile. It should be over one. So we'll get them to move that over a little bit.
Should be next to the.
No, it should be away from that. It should be minimum 3 feet away from it. So we'll just have them slide over. That's no big deal. I'll just call them and say, hey, you guys need to move that over. Probably just pop the tiles and swap them. Other than that, that's it. Any questions on anything, or?